Is this thing on? Oh, okay, let's go. Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hello, friends, and welcome back to season 3 of the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am so excited to be back after a short break and to get into this new season. I am LaShawn, your host, and I am way too excited to be in the Burr months. You know, September, October, November, December, the Burr months. They have finally arrived. And while I love summer down, probably left over from childhood, having summers off, but the nerd in me and the Anne of Green Gables lover in me is obsessed with the fall. And I cannot wait to share with you this fall spooky reads, fall books, banned books for Banned Book Week, holiday reads, and even more this season of the Pouring Over Books podcast. Let's go ahead and get started on this week's episode, which is going to be about the best books I read this summer and what I'm looking forward to this month, the month of September. For the sake of this podcast, I'm going to go ahead and include books that I read from June until the end of August. This list has a little bit of everything on it simply because I really read a little bit of everything. And so while I love what I call my palate cleanser romances, quick romances I find on Kindle Unlimited, or a reread of an old favorite or basic small town billionaire romance, I love a plot. Like one of my favorite book influencers, Britt, in her book said, I love the smut, but I want a plot that doesn't center around the smut. I mean, if the smut moves the plot, that's fine. But don't give me a book full of smut filler. After a while, it all starts to run together, and that's not a good thing. And if I'm not invested in the couple, I'm not invested in the smut. So, does that make sense? I hope so. But that's the kind of book that is usually my filler book, and I usually don't include those on these lists. But anyway, all that to say that my best books of the summer included a couple of romances, let me see, a literary novel, a couple of fantasy books, because who doesn't love a good, well-plotted new magical world? And a thriller. Yes. So, let's get into the best books that I read this summer. I'm working backwards, I think, on my list. So, the first book I want to mention is the last book I finished in August, August Lane by Regina Black. Y'all, what does the little moody kids do? Let me tell you about this book. Washed up country singer Luke Randall is stuck performing his lone hit, a song he secretly stole from August Lane, daughter of his idol JoJo Lane. When he gets the chance to open for JoJo's Hall of Fame concert in his hometown, he must face both his painful past and August, who threatens to expose him unless they write a new song together. As old sparks reignite, August must decide between revenge and trusting the man that Luke has become. Let's just go ahead and get into what I felt about the book. First, this was hands down one of the best books I think I've read this year. Second, how is this only Regina Black's sophomore debut? I mean, it was so good. I loved her first book, but this one, chef's kiss. I loved it. August Lane was one of the most beautiful, lowest of the slow burn, second chance romances that I think I have ever read. There was so much more to it, though. It was a commentary on Blacks in country music, overcoming addiction and childhood abuse, and the expectations of family that a lot of young Black girls go through in terms of their sexuality. And it's just a whole thing. But as a whole, this was August and Luke's story of redemption and love and overcoming the odds to find their way back to each other. And again, this was one of the best books I've read this year, and it's going down on one of my all-time favorite romance books. 10 out of 10 recommend, y'all. Read it ASAP. It's just that good. The next book that I want to talk about is Slanting Towards the Sea by Ladija Hije. I still need to learn how to pronounce that. A decade after divorcing Vlaho, the love of her life, Ivana returns to her Croatian hometown. to care for her ailing father. Once full of hope, her dreams were crushed by hardship and a devastating secret. Vlaho is now happily remarried with children, and Ivana finds unexpected comfort in reconnecting with him and befriending his vibrant wife, Marina. But when a new romance sparks for Ivana, the delicate balance between the three is shaken, leading to an emotional reckoning that forces each to confront love, loyalty, and the weight of the past. This book was one of the most beautiful books that I think I've read this year. There is a line in the book that I wrote down, and it says, "Where is the fine line between sacrifices that make sense and those that don't? And how do we tell them apart?" This is the question that I thought of while reading because my goodness, Ivana was such a beautifully complex character. She was driven by big emotions and love. And even though I questioned almost every choice and decision she made in this book, I found myself aching for her, even as she made hard decisions and how her decisions then set in motion a series of events that you look back on and say she really could have prevented. But the results of her decisions also resulted in beauty and love. And how can she now disrupt that? This was heart wrenching at times and beautiful and stunning, and one of those books that will take me a long time to forget. It was beautiful. 5 out of 5. The next book on our list is A Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. Beth and her husband Frank live in a quiet life built on a farm until a dog is shot, unraveling their entire lives and the secrets that kept it together. Because the dog's owner is Gabrielle Wolfe, Beth's teenage love, who shattered her heart. Now back in the village with his young son, Gabrielle reawakens memories Beth has tried to forget. Caught between her past and present, Beth must face impossible choices. Broken Country blends the emotion of a love story with the suspense of a thriller, revealing how first love can echo across time and change everything. This was one of the best books I've read all year. Most of the books that I consider on my best of list, I read this summer. It was part thriller, part love story, and I literally could not put it down. I never even suspected the first twist, and I don't know what this says about me. And then the second twist made so much sense that I audibly gasped when I read it. It was so well done, and it just drew me in and kept me in a chokehold until the very last line. I had a different ending in mind when I started the book, but when I got to the end, I understood that this was how the book had to end, and I understand why the author went there. 5 out of 5 stars, of course. You will see this book again at the end of the year on my best of list for sure. The next book on my list is King of Ashes by S.A. Crosby. Yes, I have waxed poetic about this book all summer long. The premise: Roman Carruthers returns to his Virginia hometown after his father's suspicious car accident. He finds his brother Dante in deep with dangerous criminals and his sister Nevaeh overwhelmed running the family's crematorium. As threats close in, Roman, once a financial prodigy, offers himself and his skills to protect his family, while Nevaeh digs into the mystery of their mother's long ago disappearance. Roman proves he's far more dangerous than the criminals expected. This was a gritty, fast paced story about loyalty, buried secrets, and how far one will go to protect the ones they love. Because in the end, everything burns. I knew this was a 5-star read about 50% into this book. It exceeded all of my expectations, and sometimes I think that's because I had none going in, even though I had heard he was a great writer because I've never read any of his books before, and I heard that this was an excellent book. I used to read more thriller-like books, but I've fallen away from that in the last few years, I guess, in favor of my fantasy and romance books. But friends, like I said this summer, I'm going to go back and read all of his backlist, and I'm on razor blade tears right now because this was everything, like literal everything. It was violent, it was gory, but it was riveting at the same time, and I could not put this down. Plus, the writing was just beautiful. And I'm realized this summer, reading all of the books that I did, that the nerd in me likes hearing all the big words that I learned in SAT prep used in a sentence. But the way he made you feel with those words, that was the best part of the book. because the way I wailed and screamed in the last 25% of that book needs to be studied. It was a masterpiece, in my opinion, leading us to a conclusion that had me screaming and staring at the wall after reading the last chapter. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 stars. 5 out of 5. 5. This exceeded all expectations for me, all of them. The last book of the summer that I want to talk about is called One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. Hoping to recapture past magic, photographer Alice returns to a lake cottage with her grandmother. There she encounters Charlie, a man from a pivotal photo taken when she was 17. As sun-drenched days turn to warm nights, Alice, used to observing, finds herself unexpectedly seen by Charlie, risking her guarded heart. Every summer after, the book that this is the quote unquote sequel to was the only Carly Fortune book that I did not like. I think when I look back on Goodreads, I gave it a 3 because it was literally just okay. I couldn't see what everybody was like, oh, I loved her first book better. I was like, why? But why? The only character I ever really loved in that book was Charlie, which is why I decided to go ahead and read this book and give it a try. It was beautiful, easy, romantic, and really the perfect summer book. I loved Alice as a main female character, and Charlie was just the icing on top of the cake. It stands alone perfectly, and I don't think you have to read the first book in order to enjoy this one. You really don't. And I have one more, an honorable mention, I'll call it. Pen Pal by J.T. Gessinger. This book was crazy, but the premise. I feel like the book description is not accurate, or it gives it gives a little bit away, a little bit too much away, maybe. So I'll give you my own summary. Our book begins with Kayla standing at her husband's grave, dealing with grief and a huge house that needs repairs. She calls a roof repairman and falls in lust or love, depending on how you look at it. Meanwhile, strange things keep happening. Her doorbell rings and no one is there. Cabinet doors open and close with no one there. She is losing time and forgetting things. She feels like someone is watching her. And to top it all off, she has a strange pen pal from the state penitentiary whose first letter to her says, I'll wait forever if I have to. She writes back, and let's just say that by the time she figures out who he is, nothing prepares you for what happens next. I'm going to just read you my review. My God. I felt like for the first half of this book, I was sitting there like, what am I reading? Is this a dark romance? Is this stalking? Is this some paranormal activity mixed in? Is this just smut? I kept saying, what is going on? The sexy times almost seemed like a distraction because I kept saying, what the hell is going on in between the sexy times? But when the twist came, it twisted me. I should have expected it, but I did not expect. The book was leaning towards a solid 3 for me, like mildly entertaining, darkish, sexy times, a little like BDSM, never hurt anybody, I was thinking. But the twist bumped it up to a solid 4. And so if you can get through the very, very, very detailed sexy times to get to the end of the book, it's so worth it. And I've listened to this book, and I recommend you do the same and just bring your patience and an open mind. And then when you do read it, come tell me about it. Email me, come in my DMs, something. Anyway, this was a good reading summer for me, and I'm pleased with how my reading life was this summer. I did a lot of tandem reading, like listening to the audiobook while reading the physical or the Kindle edition of the book, and I used my library really, really well. Like there were some books that, especially some backlist titles that I read this summer that I got on the library because they were readily available. So I love that about my reading life this summer. It was glorious. I hope next summer is just as good. But okay, let's move on to the 5 books that I'm looking forward to this September. There are a lot of books coming out this September. A lot specifically are coming out on the 9th and the 23rd, which is wild to me. And I want to read all of them. So yeah, it's going to be hard for me. But these books that I'm going to talk about today are on the top of my book radar, and it's quite diverse if I say so myself. There's a little bit of everything for every type of reader. So let's go ahead and dive in. The first book that I have to start with is 107 Days by Kamala Harris, which is out on September 23rd. The description for this one is short. Your Secret Service name is Pioneer. You are the first woman in history to be elected Vice President of the United States. On July 21st, 2024, your running mate Joe Biden announces that he will not be seeking re election. The presidential election will occur on November 5th, 2024. You have 107 days. I wanted this book, but I didn't think we would get one, and I certainly didn't think we would get one so soon. I didn't know she wanted to marinate on it a little bit, and she wanted to take some time away, but evidently, our girl is a busy little bee and needed something to do, so she wrote this book. That being said, my copy is ordered, all of them. Like I have it ordered from bookshop.org. I have that copy coming, and I have the audio book coming from Libro FM, and I have tickets to the bookstores, and I have tickets to the book stop tour here in Atlanta, the sold out one. Yes. I am here for whatever this book may be, because really, don't we all want to know what those 107 days were like? We really do. I just hope that it's not sugar coated. I hope that it's not general terms. I want some tea. I want all the tea, girl. And I want details. So I can't wait to get into it. I can't wait to get into it. The next book up on my list for September is Alchemist by Sin Lin Yu. This summer, there were a lot of Hermione fan fiction. Hermione fan fiction is Harry Potter fan fiction where fan fiction writers, authors imagine what it would have been like if Hermione and Draco had been in a relationship. I always wanted her with Harry, but I can see now that I am an adult, I can see the maybe tension and how that could have been a good thing between her and Draco. I can see it. I understand why everybody went there. But this summer, there was a lot of Hermione fan fiction turned into traditionally published books. But the one that everyone has been waiting for is the reworking of this one. The book was originally published as Manacled on Archive of Our Own, is AO3. It's like a fan fiction website starting in 2018. But the reimagined, traditionally published version of this work is now entitled Alchemist and is scheduled to be released on September 23rd. So let me tell you what it's about. Once a promising alchemist, Helena Marino is now a prisoner of Palladia's corrupt guild families and their necromancer allies. Her powers suppressed and her mind fractured by memory loss, resistance records mark her as a minor healer. Yet her missing past raises troubling questions. Was she more important than anyone knew? Delivered into the hands of the ruthless High Reeve, Helena finds herself trapped in his decaying estate where secrets linger in every shadow. To reclaim her identity and protect what's left of herself, Helena must uncover the truth of her lost memories, no matter the cost. I decided against reading the original in favor of waiting for this one. I decided I'd rather not have another story clouding this one because I'll compare, and I don't want to have to do that. So, next up on my list is Amity by Nathan Harris. In 1866 New Orleans, siblings Coleman and June struggled to claim their freedom they were promised after the Civil War. Separated when their former master took June to Mexico, Coleman clings to the hope of reuniting. When summoned south, he discovers June's life has been marked by hardship and betrayal. Forced on the run with his master's daughter, Florence, Coleman faces danger across the Mexican desert. As both siblings fight to survive, they learn that freedom is never granted. It must be seized. I usually shy away from anything on the slavery timeline. It's not my cup of tea. It is not something I want to read. But this one sounds interesting, and I usually don't fight it when a book that I normally wouldn't read sounds intriguing. To me, it means go ahead and get that book, girl. The next book on my list is Wild Card by Elsie Silver. This is the fourth book in her Rose Hill series, the last book. She never stopped thinking about Sebastian Rousseau, the grumpy, irresistible fire pilot who also happens to be her ex-boyfriend's father. A chance meeting once sparked a connection, but fate kept them apart. Now, a year later, circumstances forced them under the same roof, reigniting a dangerous attraction neither of them can ignore. As Sebastian struggles to repair his relationship with his son, giving in to desire would be the ultimate betrayal. But with longing building and rules meant to be broken, resisting might prove impossible. I love Elsie Silver and frankly will most likely read every book that she's published as soon as it's published. Her books are literally my catnip. They're calming books and the books that I usually read between heavy books. My only issue here is that I hate the age gap trope. Normally because usually they're really young and then he's really and it just doesn't make sense to me, and I literally hate it. Like, if she's 30 and he's 40 or he's 55, I'm like, "Oh, okay, whatever." But anything under 25, I'm like, "She don't know her own mind yet. Why y'all together?" But this one just sounds so messy that I have to read it. I mean, her ex-boyfriend's daddy? Hell, yeah, Imma read it simply 'cause, I like mess, and I really like mess in my books with smut. So, here we are. The last book on my list, I think this is the last one, The Wilderness by Angela Flournoy. In The Wilderness, Desiree, Danielle, January, Monique, and Nakia navigate the turbulence of early adulthood, careers, love, motherhood, and ambition while forging lives in New York and Los Angeles. The estranged sisters wrestle with family wounds. January questions her good relationship after an unexpected pregnancy. Monique finds viral fame challenging institutional injustice, and Nakia struggles to build her restaurant without her family's support. Spanning 2 decades of political and personal upheaval, Angela Flournoy's sweeping novel explores friendship, identity, and the messy, transformative journey into womanhood. This is the much anticipated second book from the author who is a National Book Award finalist. I remember when the Turner House came out, but I just never got to read it. So I just downloaded it and I am looking forward to reading them both this fall. September is really looking like it's going to be a good reading month, guys. Now let's get into what is currently on my reading list and what I just read and what I'm looking forward to adding to my TBR. I just read Vicious Bonds by Shanora Williams. I was researching an episode that I have coming up about fantasy and romantasy books by Black authors, and I was upset, to say the least, to understand how I missed this series, this completed series at that. If you know me, you know I love only completed series, but have gotten sucked in lately. So I'm trying to get back to reading only completed series. Anyway, when a woman is pulled through a portal into a brutal magical kingdom, she finds herself telepathically linked to its ruthless monarch. Determined to return to Earth, she reluctantly joins forces with him, but their journey through danger and corruption binds them closer than either expected. Their rare bond makes them targets, forcing a choice: resist their undeniable pull and part with broken hearts, or surrender to passion and risk everything to survive together in a world that wants them destroyed. Can I just say that I am just so glad to find another romantasy book, an adult romantasy book at that, with a Black female lead character. Okay, now that that is out the way, let's talk about this book. I started off feeling like it was too simple. I don't know how else to explain it, but as I kept reading, I realized that it was just easy. The world building, the character building, the story, it was all easy. It was like she just eased us into this world instead of having to struggle through understanding what exactly was happening, what the magic was, and what the world was. You just got eased into it and it just flowed so nicely that I didn't even realize that I was 70% in until I was 70% in. The spice is spicy, but I appreciate that and it really flows into the story. And you got to read it to find out why. I'm in the middle of the second one, still spicy, still good, still easy, and I'll keep you updated. Now, right now, I am also currently reading, because I read more than one book at once. I'm sorry, I'm one of those. I'm currently reading Positive Obsession: The Life and Times of Octavia E. Butler. Octavia Butler, the first Black woman to consistently publish science fiction, redefined the genre with stories exposing humanity's brilliance and brutality while envisioning futures with Black women at the center. In this powerful work, Susanna M. Morris situates Butler's life and writing within the civil rights era, Black power, feminism, queer rights, and Reaganomics, exploring Butler's warnings about fascism, I can never say that word right, violence, and climate chaos. Morris highlights her positive obsession with storytelling and how her flawed, resilient characters reflect her belief in transformation, survival, and the power of marginalized voices to reshape the world. I am obsessed with Octavia Butler. And so I am really, really enjoying this. And that's saying something. I am actually reading this and not listening to it. And that is a big thing for me in nonfiction. Anyway, I am looking forward to reading what is next on my list. I got it from the library, and so I am ready. Is Indigo by Beverly Jenkins. Hester Wyatt, once enslaved and now a conductor on Michigan's Underground Railroad, risked everything to shelter an injured fugitive known as the Black Daniel. Behind his arrogance, Galen Vaughn is a wealthy New Orlean who sacrificed privilege to fight for freedom. As Hester tends his wounds, sparks ignite between them, even as danger looms from traitors and slave catchers. Torn between duty and desire, they must survive betrayal and violence to claim not only liberty, but also the love that could set them free. Do you know that I have never, ever read a Beverly Jenkins novel? I thought I must have, but if I have, it was long ago. I mean, she's been writing forever for basically almost as long as I've been alive. So I don't remember if I've read, I don't remember a book that of hers that I've read. So I've decided that now I have to read her entire catalog in repentance. So I'm starting with Indigo and we will go from there. Okay, friends, that is our episode for today. If you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us grow and find other bookish friends. And also, we are over on YouTube. I will put the link in the show notes where you can watch me pontificate about books. If you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com. And you can also connect with me at the Pouring Over Books on Instagram. And like I said before, on YouTube at LaShawn Wiltz. Or my personal IG and TikTok, LaShawn Wiltz also. That's a lot. But yes, thanks again for listening. I will talk to you next week, friend. Bye-bye.